guys, so welcome to today's video. Today I thought I'd do a No BS Beauty Bulletin talking about a few skincare related things, a few things that are going on in terms of retinol in the EU, ELF, Naturium, and a few other things, the Ordinary new product, and some MLM's info. So first off, I want to talk about Jimmy Buffett, and he passed away last week at the age of 76. Amazing singer, saw him perform a couple times down in Wisconsin. Amazing singer. I've been to his restaurants, Margaritaville. When I was younger, I'd do karaoke and I'd always sing that song. And people loved it. People loved my karaoke. But anyway, I saw his Sunset Key when I was down in Key West a few times. Anyway, amazing performer. He's dealt with and passed away from skin cancer that he has been dealing with for about 4 years. And the type of skin cancer he had was called Merkel cell carcinoma, which is actually a rare type of skin cancer. And it typically appears as a flesh-colored or bluish-red nodule. Typically, it appears on your face, head, or neck, typically areas that are more exposed to sun than the rest of the body. And it's also called neuroendocrine carcinoma of the skin. And it's develops often in older people, long-term sun exposure, or a weak immune system may increase your risk of developing Merkel cell carcinoma. I really think a lot of it's related to sun exposure. And once you get it, it's a very fast growing and fast spreading cancer, and it spreads quickly from your skin to other parts of your body. And the treatments for it are various. I mean, once it's spread, it's going to be much harder to treat. In 4 years dealing with cancer, he lasted and put up a really good fight. 4 years dealing with that stuff is a long time. And the worst thing is, and you know, when he was born, he was 76. So when he was born, is sunscreen a regular thing? No. And he, being an outdoors person, sailing, boating, living on Sunset Key or in the Caribbeans or beautiful areas, you're exposed to a lot of sun. And being older, you know what, back in the 80s, I still remember people putting oil or like olive oil or whatever all over their body to get tan. So they didn't know what they know now about skin cancer. And I mean, this probably could have been prevented, most likely could have been prevented, but I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And back in those days, so if he was 76, he'd have been born in 50s or 40s. So I mean, it wasn't really talked about. I mean, really, and sunscreen still isn't really that common of a thing. If you go out and you ask people, hey, are you wearing sunscreen on an average day? Most people probably aren't. Some people might be wearing it on their face, but most people just don't. So it's something that could have been prevented and probably prevented. We don't really know, because it could have been from weakened immune system. But either way, it's important to use sunscreen every day. I have a good friend. She had a melanoma skin cancer right around her eye, and she is always good about using sunscreen and has been. However, for most of her life, she would put sunscreen on, and then before her foundation, she would put an eye cream on, and an eye cream that didn't contain SPF. So it was that little area where she was not applying the sunscreen that got it was right here where she got the skin cancer, very close to the eye, very scary. She's okay now, but it just goes to show, I mean, that little area right there, I mean, and you're being diligent about it, it can happen anywhere. So anyway, so I just want to mention that. Okay, next up, ELF, the brand ELF, but is buying Naturium skincare for $355 million. So I guess all of those interesting reviews and interesting launch of Naturium, I guess it paid off, because Susan Yara is now probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So, interesting. And that brand wasn't around for a very long time. What was it, maybe 3 years? How long was Drunk Elephant around before they got bought by Shiseido for $1 billion? What, maybe 6 or 7 years? So, interesting. Does this, if you're somebody that hasn't tried Naturium because of the launch and the monetized apology video, which is pretty phony, but anyway, now that ELF buys it, and I don't know if Susan Yara is retaining a spot on the board or not. Would you be somebody to buy it now if you haven't been buying it, or if you've been boycotting it after the launch? I'm kind of curious, so leave a comment. Okay, next up, more exciting topic. The Ordinary is launching a new barrier serum. It's actually up on Ulta as of today, but it's not live yet. And it's a pink serum. It's geared towards those with damaged skin barriers as well as atopic dermatitis. It looks like Pepto-Bismol from the color. It's pink, and that is from the inclusion of a form of vitamin B, which I cannot pronounce. I'm not going to, Cyanocobalamin or something like that. So it also contains lipids, ceramides, and gallic acid. So it looks interesting. It looks affordable. So this is their first launch since I think their NAG and aloe serum. So I'm kind of interested to see how it does. And Estee Lauder's done interesting things with that brand because do you ever hear the term Decium anymore, which used to be Decium used to own The Ordinary, Niode, Hylamide, all these other little brands, and now Decium's kind of gone, and now there's just two websites, The Ordinary and Niode. So it's interesting what Estee Lauder's done with that brand, and they still continue to release new products, although the former owner, Brandon Truex, just had much more inspiration behind him and passion than Estee Lauder does. So, okay, next up, this isn't totally news relative, but news to me because I didn't realize it until someone left a comment. Sol de Janeiro, I just want to mention this because I wasn't even aware of this. Apparently, it happened about a year ago. Sol de Janeiro got purchased by L'Occitane, which is an MLM company, so that means Sol de Janeiro is de facto owned by an MLM company, so anytime you purchase that brand, unfortunately, you're supporting MLMs, so I just wanted to mention that because I didn't even know. Somebody left a comment, so I credit them with it. I'll have to look it up and see who did it, but anyway, so I just want to point that out. And then last but not least, this came to my attention last week as well. Apparently, it's been discussed for a little bit off and on here, but the EU is introducing a retinol, not per se a ban, but regulations, stricter regulations on retinols in purchasing in the EU so they're changing a lot of regulations because they have found that over 5% of the EU population has high levels of vitamin A in their system, and they say a higher intake of vitamin A of 1.5 milligram daily can cause long-term issues to bones, liver, vision, and even brain when it's chronic vitamin toxicity. Even people who eat liver pate or liver more than once a week can be getting too much vitamin A. And according to the Mayo Clinic, too much vitamin A during pregnancy is also connected to birth defects, which is why they don't recommend using retinol if you're pregnant. They recommend something like bakuchiol, but not retinol or vitamin A. So it seems like they're taking this very seriously. So they're regulating topical retinoid products, but not all of them. So they have certain designated max concentrations for different products. And interestingly, this applies to retinol, retinol palmitate, and retinol acetate as far as I understand it. So things like retinol would not be affected by this as far as I understand it. So something like the Geek and Gorgeous A-Game would not be affected. Something like the Avene Retinol would not be affected. But something like the Drunk Elephant Passioni retinol cream would be affected because they're putting it as a maximum of 0.05%. So this is going to be too much. And if it's a leave-on product, if it's a hand or face cream leave-on product other than body lotions, in rinse-off products, the concentration can be up to 0.3%. If it's a body cream, which goes all over your body, so you'd probably be absorbing a little bit more, then the limit is 0.05. So something like this would be limited to that. I have a feeling this isn't probably above that. It's not. It's a rather gentle one, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure. But something like this would be regulated. Something like this would be regulated. The Press Restart Retinol. Something like this would be regulated. This would not be, as far as I understand it. And then if it's a wash-off product, that's different. So they're trying to limit the exposure and prevent toxicity, especially among a lot of different subpopulations they studied that have super high levels of vitamin A. So it's kind of interesting. I'm interested. I'm not super aware of a lot of wash-off retinol products, but maybe there is some. There must be some, or they wouldn't be talking about it, I'm guessing. So anyway, interesting. So it sounds like that's going to be taking effect. Other things like prescription retinoids, I think you'd still have to go to something like this. You'd still have to go to your dermatologist and get. This is not affected as far as I understand. So it's interesting. So keep your eye on it in other countries like the US, because we typically, and a lot of times, follow what they do, the EU does. We haven't followed them in terms of sunscreen. So anyway, I guess in the US you get crappy sunscreens, but you can get good retinol. And in the EU you get crappy retinol and good sunscreens. Well, not really, but anyway. Makes sense. So anyway, those are my thoughts for today. Interested in hearing from you guys what your thoughts are. Leave a comment. Love hearing from you. And stay tuned for more tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye, guys.